So, hello and welcome. My name is Colleen Robinson. I am the attorney and the owner of Heritage Law Group. And today we're talking about the 5 mistakes. Avoid these costly errors that could wreck your family's future. And one is I just want to reiterate that we hear a lot, or we see a lot of families delay doing estate planning all the time. I hear it every workshop that we have, which is every 2 weeks, essentially. We have two workshops every single month. When I meet with new clients, it's that we've been meaning to do this for a very long time, and it's been on our to-do list. So who can really relate to that? I think a lot of people can. Maybe you've said it yourself. So I just want to say that that is not uncommon to say that I've been meaning to do this. We've been putting it off for a really long time. And it's not, I don't think people do that or they delay because they don't care. But sometimes it's just that it takes a while. Sometimes it's emotionally triggering. And sometimes it just takes a while to have the message resonate um, and to process what they learn and the next steps that they need to take. So today is really a focused conversation about the 5 biggest mistakes we see families make and how to avoid them. So what I want to start with is today is not a sales presentation. It's really about clarity. You don't have to book anything with our office today. This is to give you next steps on what to do. Because I know a lot of people that are here at the webinar, it's because they've already attended one of our workshops and maybe they have lingering questions. Maybe they're not crystal clear as to what their next steps are. So that is the whole goal today, is just to give you those next steps and then the decisions that you make, whether to proceed forward with our office or not, that's entirely up to you. So I think the biggest misunderstanding that families make is thinking about estate planning as only documents. And like the paperwork, the forms, the signature, like you think of we call it signing ceremonies. There's this formality that's associated with it as well. And that's what people think of, or a binder of documents. But really, estate planning is so much more than just the paper. It's not just the documents. It's about decisions. It's about decisions on how to protect your family, who carries out your wishes, what happens if life doesn't go according to plan, and when those decisions aren't made, who's going to make them for you? Because if you don't do this ahead of time, I can tell you who will make those decisions for you, and that's a third party through our court system. So these 5 mistakes that we're about to walk through is really about decision mistakes. So mistake number 1, believing a will avoids court. And then the little italicized line under that, a will guarantees probate. So many families assume that if they have a will, their loved ones won't have to deal with court or the process or the length of time. But in reality, a will is a one-way ticket right to that system. Probate is a process. It's a process of rules, accounting, procedures that must be followed, and they're real strict. That of how it's the process of how to transfer assets after someone passes away. In Southern California, it could take up to 18 to 24 months to distribute those assets. So that's 18 to 24 months that families aren't receiving a dime out of your estate. If you have little kids, it's thinking that your kids aren't receiving any funds for their care. How is the mortgage getting paid? How are property taxes being paid? How are utilities being paid in that time period as well? And the process costs tens of thousands of dollars. And that's not an exaggeration. So, for those who have attended the workshop, if you remember, if all you had was a house here in Southern California or in San Diego County or even Riverside County, and that house fair market value is $1 million, that's $50,000 in fees to go through our probate process. So, and everything, so it's expensive, it takes a long time, and it's all public. So what does it mean by that? Or what do I mean by that? Everything you file is up to public consumption. That's your will, if you have one. It's all the documents that who gets what, and all of your finances are subject to public record as well. Oftentimes, when we explain how the probate court system works, people are shocked to hear about this, that the system they thought that protected their families actually sends them into court. And this system, as I've mentioned before, isn't designed to protect your wealth, your health, your dignity, or your family. It's a system that's designed upon rules, procedures, and timelines. And if you see what's missing out of that secondary group of words, it's the wishes of the individual. That's not the importance with the probate system. It's following the rules and following the deadlines and making sure all the I's are dotted and all the T's are crossed. So right now I have a probate case that's going on in Orange County. There's two assets, a house and a retirement account. It's all sitting in an estate account. Everything's been liquidated. The biggest issue hasn't been the family, hasn't been fighting, it hasn't been drama or anything along those lines. The biggest issue has been the bureaucratic system and getting this approved to get distributed through the courthouse. The decedent is grandma. Grandma died 2 years ago, and the funds still haven't been distributed amongst his family, who isn't fighting about anything. So it's just like things to think about. Like the system is not designed to protect your family or the wealth that you've accumulated and saved your entire life. It's following the rules and making sure that the procedures are followed through as well. So mistake number 2 is assuming your family can figure it out. And what I mean by that is that some people have this belief that if something happens, my husband, my wife will step up, my adult kids will know what to do. But the reality behind that is that without the proper legal documentation, instead of being able to figure that out or having access, they get a big stop sign and said, sorry, but you're not on the account. You are not the presumed decision maker in this situation. What a lot of people don't realize, and if you stop and think about it, it actually kind of makes sense, is that even if you're married, your spouse is not presumed to be your ultimate decision maker. Well, how could that be so? Well, to anybody else, how would anyone know that, like, the day before, I could have been seeking counsel from a divorce attorney and filing paperwork to get divorced from my husband. And he would not be the presumed person to make my decisions for me. So it's like thinking about it in those like that. In California, like I mentioned, it's your spouse is not presumed to be your decision maker. So it's realizing the legality or the legal reality around this kind of belief, that where you think things can just be taken care of, if you don't have the legal documentation, it causes so much more heartache and panic, confusion, and delay. So if you think about it from two different perspectives, if you were in a hospital, for example, and you need to make sure your bills are paid, but you don't have a power of attorney, the only remedy in that situation is that your family would have to file what's called a living probate and obtain a conservatorship, which can take months to obtain. So it's just understanding how that works. Estate planning is how you give your family permission to act before the chaos ensues or before the emergency happens. And that's really the peace of mind that is derived from this whole process as well. So love does not equal legal authority, if that's the biggest message there. So mistake number 3, relying on one document to do everything. So when you like survey a crowd about estate planning, the number one document that comes to mind when you say what is estate planning, it's usually a will or a trust, right? And assuming that one piece of paper, whether a will or a trust, is going to solve all of the problems there. But estate planning doesn't work that way. Why? Because life doesn't work that way. The documents are tools, and each tool has a different function. So if we think about, in my office where I meet with clients, I actually have a toolbox. To reiterate this point, I just happened to leave it at the office. I was going to bring it here with me. But if we think about, if I open up a toolbox and I pull out a hammer and I've got a screwdriver. Well, if I said, hey, can you come to my house? I've got this issue, but you can only bring one tool. Like, how could you possibly know that that one tool is going to fix my plumbing leak, for example, or the roof that needs to be fixed or whatever? And like thinking about estate planning documents, one tool does not solve all of the problems. What we want to have is a full toolbox, and that includes planning for whatever may happen during our lifetimes, whether that's incapacity, that could just show up in forms of dementia or Alzheimer's, which, by the way, 1 or 2 out of 3 out of every American will be diagnosed with some sort of dementia or Alzheimer's. Maybe it's a stroke, or maybe it's something like an accident where you're temporarily incapacitated, that we have all of the documents to take care of you during your lifetime. So that's a power of attorney in your healthcare directive. And then we look at assets, what happens to assets once you pass. We have things like the will, and we also have a trust, but understanding that their jobs are very different. So the answer is like, which one do we need? I don't know. I don't know the answer, but I do know is I want to make sure you have all of them there as well. So the truth is we don't know which tool your family is going to need first. That's why a good estate plan is a fully loaded toolbox. It's a coordinated system where the tools work together and support you during your life and then support your family once you pass. So mistake number 4, I see this a lot, is that waiting until it feels urgent to start planning. Most families don't delay because they don't care. I don't think that's true at all. They delay because life gets in the way. We all get so busy, right? And estate planning doesn't feel immediate. It's something you can put off to the side, onto the back burner, and then suddenly you look back, you're like, oh my gosh, it's been 10 years since we've been talking about this. That's what I hear most of the time. We've been talking about doing this for 10 years. And in a blink of an eye, that time passes. But planning works best when it happens before a crisis, which forces rush decisions, or sometimes it forces limited options. I've definitely been on phone calls where families call and somebody is in hospice, for example, nearing the end of their life, and there are no options at that point. They don't have capacity to sign anything, and I have to deliver the bad news is there's nothing to be done until they pass, and unfortunately, you're going to have to go through probate court to deal with this. So the earlier a system is built, the more smoothly it operates and it actually does its function of protecting your family, then estate planning isn't an emergency task. It's really about creating stability and, again, that peace of mind as well. So mistake number 5, believing estate planning is a one and done process. Many families think once we got our estate planning documents done, great, they're signed, they never have to look at them again. And there's such a big issue with that because life does not stand still. Life is always subject to change. Families grow, assets change, relationships evolve, and not most importantly, I don't mean to phrase it like this, but also it's that the laws are always subject to change. Whether it's in Sacramento or out in Washington, D.C., they're always subject to change. So a plan that might have worked perfectly 10 years ago is outdated, which means it doesn't protect your family today because those plans don't automatically change just because the laws change. So estate planning very much is an evolving set of plans. It's almost like a living system if you want to think about that. So it's best when it's reviewed and adjusted over time as your life changes. So for example, a couple weeks ago, I was meeting with a woman who created her estate plan maybe 10 years ago. And when we started talking about the design of it and then certainly her assets, we realized none of her assets as what she currently has now are actually in her trust. And that is such a big disconnect as well, when she realized that her family's not protected, her assets aren't protected, because she also wasn't aware that she was supposed to do anything else with her assets. So one of the things that we do with all of our clients is we do a 3-year review minimally. And we also have this amazing program, our legacy assurance program, where we meet annually so that we go through, have your assets changed, have your family changed, have relationships changed, and have the laws changed as well. Yesterday, I was meeting with a couple who created their plan almost 20 years ago, and the laws that were in place at that time have changed so much that the way that their plan is currently drafted causes so much more confusion. And it's overly burdensome in terms of the accounting or the administration as well. So we're able to simplify that and also figure out what assets now exist and where they need to go with their plan. So it's really important to make sure that your plan is always staying up to date as to whatever's going on in your life as well. So here, when we look at these 5 mistakes together, the real cost of poor planning isn't financial. It's stress on your family, it's delay and getting access to resources can cause conflict, whether it's internal or whether it's external between your family members, and it produces uncertainty. A strong estate planning system, or I like to call it a system because it's all working together with what you have, what is your current reality, and what the laws are as well, to prevent these 4 things that are staring at us right in the face here. And that's truly what real protection looks like. It's preventing all 4 of these. So your next steps from here is to get clarity. And that's what our strategy session is all about. We map out or discuss your family and its dynamics and your assets. We figure out what your goals are. And then you get to ask as many questions as you want. It's 2 hours of my time. And you get to understand exactly what you and your family need to make sure that they're protected as well. And then we go over the tools that are available. So this is truly an opportunity for you to figure out exactly what you need. And there's no pressure whether you move forward with our firm or not. You're going to walk away from that meeting knowing exactly what you need to do next, whether that's with us or with a different firm. So here's your next step. So I have the QR code, and then I can drop the link as well into the chat. But your next step is to book a private legacy strategy session. That's 2 hours, as I mentioned, 2 hours of my time, where we're talking about you, your family, your goals, your assets, and then what's the best next step for you and your family. Ask as many questions as you want. And like I said, it's absolutely no pressure at all. So I'm going to put in here into the chat, because I have it all ready to go, is our booking link here. So you can take a look at that. I also have Star here on the line if you need any assistance or have any questions about booking there as well. But that today was just a short and sweet little presentation about the 5 most common mistakes that we see from our end and what your next steps are as well. So I hope this has provided some clarity. And if you have any questions, please let us know. You